So what is financial independence? How do we know what that actually is and how do you really achieve it? Let's talk about that in this video right now. Okay, so how do you actually become financially independent? What is that definition of financial independence? What is that for you? What is it in reality? That's what I want to talk about today, and not just how to talk about it, but how do we really achieve it? What do we actually have to do? What are the steps that'll help you become financially independent? I want to break that down, what actually worked in my own life, as well as several of my clients' lives as well. All right, so let's talk about financial independence. What's the definition? I know you might have different definitions. This is how I describe it. I have financial freedom and I have financial independence. To me, financial independence is when you have more than enough passive income to pay your monthly bills. Your expenses, all the expenses you have each month are paid or can be paid by your investments. Once you get to that point, so say you're spending $8,000 a month, once you get to $8,000 a month of passive income, you are now financially independent. But I would not call that financially free because you're just now paying your bills. Financial freedom is when you got more than that to where you can live the lifestyle that you want to live too. And that could be even a higher number. That could be double. It could just be a few thousand more a month. It could be triple the number. Whatever that might be for you, great. There's a difference between that financial independence and financial freedom. Now, naturally, you're looking up financial independence, which is why we're talking about that today. And that is the first step you got to get to before you ever have a hope of financial freedom. And I'll tell you this, to try to do it the traditional way, like your financial advisor suggests, is very, very difficult. And here's why. Did you know Fidelity, which has 45 million accounts in the United States, guys, that's a large percentage of our country right there, 45 million accounts. Did you know that only 810,000, about 1.8% of those, have $1 million or more? Now that might sound like a big number, but it's not in the financial advising world. Because here's why. They're telling you to live on 3% a year, right? That's all you're supposed to pull out. So if you have $1 million, that means you can pull out $30,000 a year. Guys, that's like the poverty line. You're like a broke millionaire. If you think about that, like you're actually qualifying almost for, although they probably wouldn't give it to you, you could almost qualify for welfare in a normal situation living on $30,000 a year. No, that's not great. And that's why when they surveyed those same people, that 1.8%, that small percentage of people that actually made it, 35%, more than a third of them said it will take a miracle for me to be able to retire. A miracle. They don't even think they'll be able to accomplish it. And that's why, because it's just not enough. So most of the time, if you want to have any kind of hope of a middle-class lifestyle, you got to make sure, at least in today's dollars, not even talking about tomorrow down the road with inflation, today you got to at least have $2, $3, $4 million, $5 million in place to finally say, now I have a great lifestyle. Does that sound easy to you? Not at all. Especially when you got people out there like Dave Ramsey saying, you save $100 a month for 40 years and you'll retire a millionaire. Bull, because the stock market doesn't return 12%, even though he claims it does, but that's a bold-faced lie. And then two, he didn't even do the math right. By the way, 12% a year on $100 a month gets you to $979,000. He's saying you get to almost 1.2 million. He can't even do math right. So I don't know what's going on there, but that's the lies that you keep getting taught your whole life and then thinking you'll be able to make it. But then you have to ask yourself, what's $1 million going to be in 40 years anyways? It might not be nearly as much as what we think it is. And so no, you should not be buying into that kind of crap, and you should not have to work so freaking hard and save so much and defer and delay your life. Avoid all that time with your family. Don't take those trips. Don't enjoy life at all. In fact, just don't even have children, right? Just completely go, just focus on your work. Have no family, nobody in your life at all that you can ever love. Obviously, I'm being a little sarcastic, although I do have 8 kids, so sometimes I do dream of that single lifestyle. But I'm just telling you, no. You obviously want to have a life. You don't want to just try to make a living. You want to have a life. And you want to have that life not just 40, 50 years in the future when you finally can say, now I can retire. You want to have a life right now. And the way to do that is you've got to go away from this, the squirrel mentality that you got to save up all these nuts for the winter of your retirement to then someday finally be able to eat just a little bit of those nuts at a time, just so that in case the winter's extra long because you live too long, you don't want to eat too many nuts, right? That's ridiculous. Plus they make you constipated. So you don't want that. You want to make sure you have a good life. No, guys, what you want really is you want to be able to take that money and get it to work for you now. And that's where you go from that accumulation mindset to an income or an acceleration mindset. And that's where income comes in. That passive income is what we talk about here. Now, that's financial independence, right? How do we actually get there in reality? How was I able to get there twice by the time I was 39? Not easily. I'll tell you, it was actually hard, especially the second time when I went from millionaire to upside down millionaire. had to dig out of $1 million debt hole and then save up money to then get to pay me passive income. It was not easy. It took me about 9 years total from depths of despair to finally hitting that point. It took me from 30 to 39 to do that. The first time took me a lot shorter because I didn't have all that debt. So anyways, I'm telling you, it worked in my own personal life of laboratory that I have. It also works with a lot of our clients. And here's how you do it. It's actually kind of a 5-step process. The first one is that launch pad process. It's really getting to know, like, where's that low-hanging fruit? Where is their money? Where can you get liquid? Now, first, I always recommend, how do we focus on the cash flow? You give me an example of this one client we had. She and her husband had over $5 million of stocks. These stocks were in like Google, Facebook, or Meta, right? And all these kind of tech companies. And she was kind of worried. She said, we're not diversified at all. If the tech market tanks, we're not going to have $5 million anymore. It's going to go down fast. And so she said, I want to hire you guys because we want to know how we can invest in alternative investments like real estate to kind of diversify ourselves a little bit more. Now, in this launchpad phase, when we met with her, we said, well, listen, you don't actually have to just go and invest your money, because as we're looking at your total picture here, we're noticing something. Did you know that we could actually refinance your house to a lower payment, cash out some of that equity? We can actually consolidate all the other loans you still have outstanding, because yes, even though she had 5 million stocks, they had debt too. So we actually consolidated all their debt, freed up $3,800 a month. That's like 45 grand a year that we freed up. On top of that, there were business owners. And of course, we know with business owners, almost every time, very rarely, will somebody not save in taxes after they meet with one of our CPAs. So we said, hey, let's go refer to one of our CPAs here. Let's see if we can free up some money on taxes. Guys, they're able to free up between $30,000 and $40,000 a year in taxes as a result. So again, with no money out of pocket still, we haven't even invested, we already freed up $75,000 a year. This now just made the expenses less so that financial independence can happen faster. Then, after that launchpad phase, we saw what the cash she has. Obviously, she had a lot of stocks and whatnot we could be using, even some money in savings. And that leads to the next step, the step 2, which is explore. Now we have to explore the opportunities. What could they be doing with that money? And so they wanted to borrow our network, because I have a lot of people that I've built relationships over the years that I invest with or other clients invest with as well. And so they wanted to meet some of these people in these different areas, especially with their money and what might be best to use with the different types of money they have. And so they started talking to people. That might be like a turnkey rental business where they're hands off. They have a property manager that takes care of the property, but they have a cash flowing property that they own. It could be investing in apartments, self-storage, oil and gas. They actually did some stuff with that. They started looking at different things, lending their money out and doing different types of debt funds or whatever it might be that's backed by real estate. And so they started to explore different options. Now, after you explore them, you start to look at them. The great thing is they come back to us. They ask for feedback because we're not on those people's payroll, right? So even though they're going to our network, we're not getting paid from that network like a financial advisor would. We just know they're totally hands off. We just get paid by the client for a consulting fee. And so when they ask us our opinions, we don't ever give investment advice, but we do help them bounce the ideas and their fears and concerns off of us. And then at that point, then it's time for stage 3, which is commit. Now, once they kind of feel better about the different investments, they commit to the ones that they like the best. We figure out which ones to go into to get them their goals the best way possible and the safest way possible. Now, along the way, we got to make sure we protect your money. We want to make sure we don't lose the money that you have, right? We want to make sure that no one life event will take all that money away from you. That you don't, if there's a car crash, that you lose your money, or if there's a lawsuit, if you get sued or whatever it might be, if you end up, having, like taxes, we talked about that, right? There's the issues with even if somebody were to die in the family, what do we do? If there's health concerns, how do we make sure that no one event takes away all your wealth? And then that leads to my favorite step, which is the income avalanche. Because as you start to have that passive income coming in, you then build that cash up and then you reinvest it again. So like with them, they had about 2 million of stocks they could cash out that would generate about $200,000 a year. Well, guess what? That $200,000 they can now reinvest again. So now that $200,000 a year now becomes another $220,000 a year, right? And then they do it again. That's a $240,000 plus, and so on. Which, by the way, it only takes them for a few years. They don't have to invest all their stocks to become financially independent. They only needed, at first, they needed $22,000 a month, but after we freed up all that money, it dropped it down to like $16,000 a month. So actually, really in the first year, we pretty much got them to the point where they're financially independent. Now we're just trying to get them to reach financial freedom where they have more than enough money to cover their bills and then some. That is the difference. That's how you do it. All right, so here's your first step of what you can do. If you want to figure out how much passive income you could create in your current situation, go to moneyripples.com. There's a passive income calculator. If you put in all your numbers, and it takes just a few minutes, you put in all your numbers, make sure you fill it out completely and accurately. It'll give you a pretty accurate number of what's possible in your situation. So you want to see what that starting point looks like, go there right now. And by the way, if it's over 15,000 bucks, you should be talking to us to see how you can actually make that a reality in your life. That's how you become financially independent. Now go try that calculator right now.